students have told me after practicing this for a semester, and right now I'm doing it virtually, so they practice it with people that they're with, that it has helped their relationships and their families, that they are better listeners, and also too, they want to know more about people. And then another thing that I add on to is the component of graciousness and gratitude. So just as a listener, when someone is finished speaking, just saying, thank you for sharing, thank you for this opportunity. And that thank you can go a long way. The next part of the conscious listening is about connection. So just remembering there's no need to agree or disagree. So this really can be mind-boggling at times, because oftentimes we're listening to think, okay, you agree with me, or you do this or you do that. But that's not what this is about. This is about, I'm here, here's this other individual, and then guess what? Now you can be you, and that's okay. I always like to say to my kids, and well, that's their journey. We all have a different journey, and it's okay, and we don't have to judge that journey. We just allow that journey to be there. You're so funny. Now I'm starting to read the comments. So I wasn't listening to the comments. Sorry about that. No, you can't see the PowerPoint. It's on me. If you send me an email, I'll send you the PowerPoint. Honestly, it's only like 6 slides. I'm just reading off of it, and we're actually going to practice the conscious listening in just a second. And again, conscious listening is to receive and not so much to respond. So just imagine that when we are doing conscious listening, we're aware of where we are in that moment, and think of us like a TV antenna or a cell phone tower. All we're doing is just taking in information, and then watching our thoughts. What am I thinking? As this person is speaking to me, what am I thinking? Am I judging this person? Am I dismissing this person? Am I doing whatever I am? Maybe we're not even listening. Maybe we're thinking about what's going to be for lunch. So all of these things that happen, it's okay to just notice them and then just come back to the present moment and listen. Conscious listening also too has a lot to do with just being mindful and present in the moment. So allowing ourselves to just ground down into the moment and just be with whoever's in front of us. So now we will practice. So the way, there's another group, I practice with a meditation group and a mindfulness group. And basically the way to practice, and you guys just, you can open it up. If you want to share, you can share. I will let you know that the meeting is being recorded. I didn't know the meeting was going to be recorded. But so just share to what you're comfortable with, right? If you want to. And if not, I can share and you guys can practice conscious listening with me. But I guess we can talk and speak upon one of the things that I wrote out, one of the questions in the PowerPoint was just, what does it feel like when someone is truly listening to you? How does that feel to you? And do you have any examples of moments where you felt like you were being listened to and what that felt like? And then if anybody wants to speak, you can just, chime in. And one of the things that we do too, because there's more of a group, I wanted to set it up in small groups, but we can just say, I'd like to answer that. And then when the person is speaking, all we're doing is being present. If any thoughts come up or if anything interesting, we go, I'd like to know more about that. We hold that until the person says, usually what I do as a signal is I say, I'm complete, because that means, okay, I feel complete, I've completed, or okay, that's good, I'm done. And that way it opens up the floor for others to come in. So until the person is given that signal, then we're just gonna listen. That's all we're doing, is just listening. So right now, if we can just touch on the topic of, number one, what does it feel like to be deeply listened to? And do you have any recollections or memories of what that was like in the moment, or who listened to you deeply, and how did that impact you? So we can start with that. You guys are cool with it.
Christy, can I ask a question?
The question. So I'll put it in the chat too. I think that might be helpful. So
I have a question.
Oh yeah.
Is there a PowerPoint that I should see, or is it you?
It's me.
Okay.
I was trying.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
no,
cool.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
And if anybody
help me get it set up, but I'm
no,
yeah.
No worries.
Okay, cool.
If anyone can help me, right now my picture is blocking you, so I can barely see you. I don't know how to move you so I can see all of you. Does anyone know?
There should. Is your screen like all the way up?
Yeah.
It is.
So
I wonder.
Never mind. No one knows right off. That's fine. I'm sorry.
It's a good question.
No. That's fine. Let's get back to the presentation.
I think that if you right-click, there should be an option called Pin or Unpin. So it should say Pin, and if you click on it, it should be Unpin, and it'll give you the view where you can see everyone, I think.
Try that, Cyrus.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. Thank you.
I'm just typing in the question here.
Okay, under the three ellipses, there's a thing called gallery. You see the three little dots?
Yeah, no, Sandra, I've done that. I'm good. Thank you.
Good?
Yeah, I'm good. Just back to the presentation. I'm sorry.
Right. Okay, I wasn't sure.
We got rescue mode in and we're complete. All right. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So I did go ahead and put the question in the chat, the meeting chat. And again, so what does it feel like to be listened to? And do you have any examples of a time when you felt heard? Like, how did that feel? And again, if you'd like to speak, just go ahead. You can go ahead and start. Just introduce yourself. Hey, hi, this is. And then when you're finished speaking, you can just say, thank you, or I feel complete. And then whoever else wants to chime in can chime in from there. So our purpose right now is just to give space for whatever comes up to come up. That's it. So whoever feels called can go. Monica? Your hand is raised.
I can go. I don't know if you all saw the raise hand thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so oddly enough, when I feel the most intently listened to, it's in professional conferences when I'm asking questions of the speaker. They will always follow up like, so do you mean this or that? And then there'll be like this kind of brief conversation that's to some degree deeper than the usual, just trying to figure out what the question actually is. And then they'll go ahead and answer. And this is kind of, listening feedback loop kind of, in which I also pay intense attention. So that's been kind of my experience with being intently listened to and then just kind of carefully listening in return.
I would agree. I gave my first presentation and I had some really in-depth questions that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not even ready to answer those. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually going to have to research that and get back to you. So it's encouraging when people listen that intently to you to ask that and support you in that way.
Christy?
Yes.
I had a situation, it was a personal situation with a family member, and it was quite traumatic to all of us. And I, was telling a personal friend, and she listened, and really was a good listener and didn't, give me any comments, but at the end of the conversation gave me encouragement. And then I had another person that I was sharing the information with, and it was totally different. It was like, well, we all have problems. So that was the two different scenarios that I had with that and being complete.
So Carolyn, when you had those two different scenarios, how did it make you feel being in those two different spaces and comparing them, if you don't mind sharing?
In the first one, it made me feel like, it gave me comfort that, this situation happened, but, we will get through these steps that we need to get through. And with the second one, it was like, well, we all have problems, so you should just deal with yours however you can. And it kind of negated any type of support that I might have gotten from just a person listening and maybe making one comment of support. It made me feel belittled, maybe, or like I wasn't telling anything significant, and it was a really very traumatic ongoing situation for my family member. It's like this doesn't stop. It's part of her life now, and it just kind of felt like what I was saying was not important. But that's okay, because I know that I am important in this situation. So, and that's all.
Thank you for sharing, and thank you for your vulnerability. That's very brave. One of the things I often talk to my students about when we practice this is that in the beginning there may be like this uncomfortableness, because I ask them to think of just kind of random questions and ask, like, all right, what brings you joy? I want you to write on what brings you joy for 5 minutes, And for some people that's very personal and maybe something that they don't really discuss with anyone. And then now they're asking someone else, like, oh, hey, what brings you joy? And I've had some students that have been like, love this experience, and they've come closer with the people that are with them, and just being able to hear different perspectives. And even too, and I'll just bring up like little kids, like usually in the classroom it's just students doing this, but now that we're virtual, they can do it with whoever. So the students practice doing this with their parents, or maybe their children, or a niece or a nephew, or someone that's younger. And it's such a gift to give a child a moment where all they have to do is just be seen and be heard. And then what they say is not right or wrong. That validation, how important is that? It's super beautiful. So maybe we can talk about a time when we felt validated. How does that sound? And then how have we helped to validate others, maybe?
Christy, if I may,
Yeah.
I felt validated in therapy. Speaking with a therapist, with the active listening that they do, the conscious listening, I definitely feel validated and feel heard, and maybe sometimes not fully understood, but they definitely validate me. And I mean, I know you're paying them to do that, but it's like they're not there to tell their story. And when you're talking to someone else, they want to tell their story as well. And so um, it's kind of challenging to do that. I'm good.
Thank you for sharing. And you're absolutely right. The therapeutic experience is so powerful. And I'm actually, and I think one of the reasons that I'm so drawn to this is that I'm going back to school now to go into mental health counseling and to get my LPC. But I really feel like if we learned these skills early on and were able just to be present with another individual, that there would be so much less conflict, because maybe we would understand that what somebody else is going through isn't a reflection of us, and we don't have to internalize that, you know. We don't have to say, well, because I think this way, you need to think this way, right? And that a lot of times that attitude, well, if I think this way, you should think this, that should thing, shoulding on people, right? No. And it's beautiful because I've seen just through the years of doing this and through this semester and even the summer and spring and stuff, is that students have started to open up their view of what is acceptable, right? Because initially it's just like, it's my worldview and this is it. But then whenever they're able to listen to someone that has something that's different from their worldview and validate that as well, then all of a sudden the neuroplasticity starts to happen and it starts to open up. It's a gorgeous experience. So, and you guys are doing a beautiful job of practicing the listening right now. And like I said, typically what I would do is we break off into groups and you would have that moment to practice together. But it's okay, we can do it this way as well. Let's see. So how do you think listening could be used in a classroom, conscious listening? And not just conscious listening to the instructor, but how could we use this with students and teach this to students? And what kind of impact do you think that might have in the classroom? No.
I guess if someone wants to share, or if someone is sharing, or points of view, and having respect for each other. I mean, I guess it depends on the age and the grade, but listening to them, responding to them, and doing that. So listening to them as they're speaking, responding to them, allowing them to have their view on whatever the topic is. So growing that respect, and then respect not only in the listening, but respect in their view on whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
whether it is right or wrong, I guess.
Yeah, Sandra?
Hello?
Yes, I'm not an advisor at all. I'm in information technology, but one of my biggest things is just only when you listen do you hear ideas of others. So I try to pick up on others as I listen. So listening to me is fun because I'm learning. So that's the way I look at listening.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Hello?
Uh-huh.
Oh, can you guys hear me? Sorry, I'm new to Microsoft Teams. I'm Monica, and I had this experience a couple of weeks ago where I was in class with another student in my physics labs, and they were saying they didn't know how to do something in Excel, and I keep pushing to know why they didn't know how to do something in Excel, and apparently they've been using Excel online for like 2 years. They didn't know how to log in or that they could log in on the computer with their student ID information, which was like bizarre to me. But then he felt really bad that he kept saying to his teachers that he didn't know how to do something when he could have done it if someone would have taken the time and asked, well, what do you mean you can do it? So when I think of listening to students, I think of like listening to what are their needs beyond like what they think, is more like finding resources for them to like excel.
Thank you, Monica. And you bring up a really good point about asking those questions, those clarifying questions. So when we come and someone has something they're sharing with us, like that, the student who couldn't use Excel and hadn't been able to use it for 2 years, then you, by just asking that one question, were able to, like, in that moment, help the student who had been frustrated for 2 years. That's a huge deal, because maybe the student's been saying the same thing for 2 years, but no one was able to hear or dig a little bit deeper. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. Who's got to go? Dawn, did you want to add anything?
My mic. Okay. One way that I really like to, I know that students are listening to me, is when I bring up, I teach the non-majors. So when I bring up controversial topics like gene editing, like should we edit the human genome? And, I go through the pros and cons, but then I'll have students stay after class and ask me my opinions and our evolution, like topics that, they haven't really been able to talk about. And sometimes I've given them the opportunity. I did it one semester where I gave them like, here's 4 big topics, put them in the groups, and I gave them the whole class to talk about it, the pros and cons. And I tell them on some of the discussion posts, there's no real right answer. It can be this or that. I always tell them people are like icebergs. We only see the surface, but there's a lot more underneath that you don't know, that led to all these people having all these different opinions and experiences that led to how they view things. And I always tell them, I was like, we know how to talk, but we don't know how to listen. And it's on so many topics. It's so horrible today. That's like how it is. Everyone knows how to talk, but just to keep your mouth shut and let someone fully get it out, even if you might not agree 100%. I do this to the dog park. I just keep my mouth shut and like, okay. And, sometimes people just need to vent, and you just got to be understanding. And I've wished that more and more people were. And I try to make that appearance to my students. It's like, yeah, you don't have to agree with, possibly using the CRISPR technology to eliminate a genetic disease. If you think it's going to go too far into playing God, that's okay. It's like, that's your opinion. But you got to make sure when you do these kind of things that people understand that it's okay that we can disagree. That's my big thing. We have to agree that it's okay that we're not going to all agree on things. And I think once we can accept that, then people might listen more. But these days, that's what's going on. Yeah, and I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I love that you take the time out for like a whole entire class period just to practicing that listening component and just speaking in groups and really putting out there the whole concept and idea that it is okay to disagree. Like life is, there are going to be disagreements. We do have different viewpoints, and that's okay. It's okay. And I like to point out that, you know, if someone feels valid in their point, that's okay. They feel valid in their point. And I can feel valid in my point. And these points may not even intersect, but they're still both valid. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can just be, this is how it is, you know. And just taking that moment and that time to listen. I think it's just beautiful that you do that in your classroom. And just thank you for doing that. Because that's exactly what we're talking about. So if we have a society that doesn't listen, where everyone wants to talk at the same time and say, everybody listen to me at the same time, there is no listener, then all you get is chaos, right? So just like what you're talking about, Cyrus, with the therapist, therapists are trained to listen, they get paid to listen, you know? And then if we're in conversation with someone else, typically it's two individuals who have not got their needs met, and they're trying to get their needs met at the same time, right? Listen to me, no, listen to me, no, listen to me, right? So it's coming into that space of, okay, I'm going to practice my conscious listening. And what I found in doing this and teaching this is that it starts to spill over, not just with, you know, the student interacting with another student, or maybe the student interacting with, you know, family members. But then all of a sudden it starts to shift the dynamic to where the family members start asking questions and start listening too on a different level, because now they feel safe, right? They feel safety, they feel seen and heard. And so because of that safety, then they can go, oh, okay, now I have more in my cup to give you, right? Because that's what you've given me. So it is absolutely fantastic. And so now I'll just do something random, and we'll just practice conscious listening like I do in the classroom. So if you were a superhero, okay, so if you were a superhero and you could have any superpower in the whole entire multiverse, so any superpower ever, what kind of superpower would you want and why? So I'll repeat that so we can think about that. So if you were a superhero in any multiverse, what kind of superpower would you want and why? We'll give you a moment to think about that. And then whoever is ready, you can just go, and then we're going to practice our conscious listening on this topic.
I don't think I'd want any superpower, because I'd probably let it go to my head and, you know, just kind of become this kind of like evil despot tyrant. So, but yeah, that's just me.
Well, Q, would you want to, if you had the ability to have the superpower, would you want to like bequeath it to someone else?
Probably not, because I don't think I trust anyone with, like, you know, my assumption is, I don't know how many of you have seen The Voice on Amazon Prime. My assumption is anyone who gets superpowers is going to become Homelander. That's basically evil Superman.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Superpowers?
Hi, my name is Disha. If I had a superpower, it would be teleportation. Because I'm a homebody who really wants to go and see and experience other cultures, but still sleep in her bed at night. So, yeah, that would be mine.
Thank you. And so with your teleportation powers, where would be like the #1 place, like if you have it right now, where would you want to go?
Oh, I guess Sardinia. It looks gorgeous, and oh, I think that would just be it. I've always wanted to go there.
Well, I look forward to you can go there. That's going to be exciting. Thank you. Awesome. So we have
fly.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
On that, I would love to fly because I love to travel, and that would allow me to do that. Probably not come home as fast, but that's a good point to make, sleeping in your own bed. But
So when you fly, would you need to like take things with you, like to this new place, or would you have like a thing, an apparatus, or?
Yeah, I get really easily. So probably like a backpack or something.
So we'll make sure you have a really warm coat when you're flying and it's really cold, right? That's awesome. What other superpowers?
For me, and this would be dangerous, but it would be the ability to read people's minds. Because then I could really understand what was going on, why the fear was there, why they're reluctant to talk, different points of view that are being driven. It would be that. But as Johansson said, it could turn dangerous in the wrong hands. But yeah, just to get to what's really going on and work that out. So I'm good.
So with mind reading, this is my question. So with mind reading, would you be able to turn it on and off, or would it like just always be on and all these thoughts, like how would you navigate that?
I'm thinking turn it on and off. Yeah, fly when you want to, don't fly when you don't want to. Yeah, turn it on and off. Yeah, that'd be too much coming at me at one time.
Yeah, absolutely. And then would you want to focus just like, okay, I want to read this person's mind, so then it's just like that one person?
Yeah, mainly on conversations. Mainly on conversations to understand where people are coming from in conversations. I've always felt like, or I've always had the interest in helping people understand each other better. And so that's where that comes from.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. What other superpowers do we have? So I guess I'll go. So I kind of like the idea of becoming invisible. So I would like to be and like to walk through things. I don't know why. I just think it would be so cool, like to just, not have just take the laws of physics and mix them all up. And like, I guess I would have to vibrate at a really high level or something. So if I vibrate at that high of a level, then I could like just go through things, but I would be invisible. So I could do it like be invisible and do it. Or if I wanted to, I wouldn't have to be invisible when I do it. I could just freak people out. I like to just like, not like in a mean way, but I like to put things on the table and see people's like reaction, like what just happened, because I love cognitive dissonance. Okay, like it's one of my favorite things ever, and so I love having these concepts and playing with concepts and then putting something outside of the box and people going not able to wrap their head around it. I don't know why. I think that's fun. I think it's part of me being an educator because I always want to push the box just a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. So I think for me, and then too, then I think it would be so cool because then like if we were all in person, right, and we were having a meeting or something, all of a sudden I'd be at the table sitting and then all of a sudden I'd just like disappear. And people would be like, where did she just go? Like, and I could still be sitting there, right? Or else like, and then I could just like walk out of the meeting and not have to go through the door because I can just go in the hall. And then what I would probably do is like, then I would be visible and then I just walk through the wall just to see what people would do. See, that's not bad. That's not bad, right? It wouldn't make me go to my head. I mean, just being invisible, walking through things, just, I would totally, but I could see this little part of me like, well, if I could do this, I could go to the bank and I could be invisible and I could go into the vault. But then it would be hard because then what am I going to take the money? Would my powers go to the money too, So you have to think about all those things. Yeah. So that's me. Yeah. Oh. Monica or Dawn, anybody else that hasn't talked? You want to talk about your superpower?
I'll go. I would like to time travel, but I don't want to go and change anything. I just want to observe it. Because I don't think we should go back and try to change what's already happened. Bad stuff happens. You can't prevent it from happening, but maybe just to sit, give me a whole new experience and deeper appreciation. So, because you got to think about the good and the bad. Yeah, if you could go back and fix or tell these important people in history that you're going to have an important impact and all the other stuff, that'd be great, but you can't change things. But just to be an observer and be in the moment, sometimes it would really be really cool. That's what I would like.
Oh, that is so fun. Have you seen these pictures that pop up like in social media and stuff of like observer pictures? Like these like pictures that come from like, civil rights movements or the iconic pictures, but then like somewhere in the middle of the picture, it's almost like Where's Waldo? There's somebody that doesn't fit. It's like supposedly that's the person from the future who is observing. I don't know. Have you seen that?
I haven't. It makes me think of Doctor Who.
Totally awesome. See, I'm
I
good.
can share one in the chat room.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can find one real quick and share in the chat if you'd like.
Yeah, do that. See, and this is the beauty of these kind of just randomness. Like I love to just do random things. One of the other topics that I'll do is like, if you were a cloud, what kind of cloud would you be and why? And the students are like, why the hell are you asking me this? Number one, but it gets them to think outside of the box. And then all of a sudden, like your iceberg that you're talking about, Dawn, that is so beautiful because like we have what we present to the world, but why is it that we present that way, right? Or why is it that we think the way that we do? And so when you do these real off the wall topics, like one of the ones I did too was like, if you were a raindrop, what would that feel like? Like what? But then and then some students like take it and run, and they're just like writing these pieces that to me are mind blowing, and then they share it, and it's so creative and I mean, I'm not just only teaching creative writing and whatnot, but I'm really just trying to teach them to think about things in different perspectives, look at something in a different way, and then hear it and go, wow, I'd never thought of that, And to me, that's the beauty of conscious listening. That really is what this is all about. So we've got about 12 more minutes. So any more superheroes before we move on to the next thing? Monica, did you think of a superhero power that you want? She may not be there. Oh, and I know that Sandra's on a call. Okay. Oh, okay. Q just put it on. So if you go to the chat, you can see this.
I think I really like this idea of like absorbing information because I really don't like reading textbooks that much. So like maybe just touching it and knowing everything that is in there will be really helpful.
So like osmosis, you just want to go, what is in here?
Yeah, literally, like, yeah, basically.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, and we do have, if you have your chat open, you can see it's true. So, you know, time travel is a thing, guys. Come on. See, somebody else, they already beat us to it. They already have the superpower. What the heck? Man. That is so much fun. I'm looking at your pictures now. Thank you. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So one last piece that I'll leave you with, and one component, is just, and you guys have already said this, but just asking those clarifying questions, right? So thinking about how can I clarify these questions? And I can't remember who was talking about it. So whenever you were doing your presentation and people were asking you questions, yes? Coetzee? Yeah, yeah. So can you speak on that? Like, how did that feel whenever you were giving your responses and whatnot?
It just kind of made me feel validated. It made me feel like they truly listened, that they probably wrote down what they felt was important during my topic, that they felt that what I was talking on was important, and that they thought that I was smart. So yeah, it just made me feel like I did something well. And then to answer, I was able to answer most of them. Some of them were like really, I was teaching to, or speaking to a very large veterinary conference. So some of the people that I was teaching to were doctors and other very smart veterinary technicians. So some of those questions I was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know. But yeah, it just validated some of the things. And so, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. All right, so as we wrap up, are there any other questions or observations after spending this time together? What is something maybe you noticed or a takeaway? Well, I'm just going to take that you're going to take away a lot. One of the fun parts about doing this, because I've taught this before, and it's so funny, because the people that show up to conscious listening talks are the people who are good listeners already. And that's why it's so great. And so I just want to thank each one of you for coming in and showing up and spending your time with us today and practicing all this wonderful conscious listening, and just to keep doing that, you know. And I know that personally I have to catch myself because I've got 2 teenage girls, and my youngest is, you know, I don't have all my hair pulled out yet, but if I did, you know, I'm telling you, I love that kid, and she is just like the mini copy of me. So we're just like this, you know, and she'll be telling me something and I'm already racing in my mind, trying to think ahead of her, you know, and I'm like, well, but, you know, and then she's just like, you have not let me talk. I need you to listen. You have interrupted me again. And I'm like, let me recenter. Okay, go ahead. I do apologize. Can we have a redo? Thank you. Thank you so much for your consideration, you know. And by mirroring that and showing her that, you know, you are important, you know, what you think is important, you know, and I appreciate you. And they do really well. My oldest is 17, my youngest is 14, and they'll even stop each other. They're like, no, you're speaking over me right now. I need you to please listen to me. So being able to teach that to our younger ones, and maybe everybody, right? Just in general, might be a good thing.
Hey, Christy,
So-
are there any books you recommend for this?
You know what? Thich Nhat Hanh is, he teaches mindfulness. And one of the core teachings is, he calls it like loving listening. Okay. So in the Buddhist tradition, it would have a different name, but essentially it's the same. But I can look up some titles for you. If you want to send me an email, if you don't mind, then I can just, I'll do some research and I'll pull out some stuff, because there's some other stuff too. There's like nonviolent communication, and there's some different things.
Is that
Deep,
Marshall Rosenberg?
yeah, deep listening. But I don't know. For me, what I like to teach is just consciousness. So if I'm conscious and I'm in this moment, then I'm aware. So if I'm aware, then you're a human being and I honor you. You know, so that's kind of what I teach. Yeah. So I don't put it towards any one sect, and then that way it's more open for them. Yeah, too. Yeah. But Thich Nhat Hanh, his stuff on listening is super. I really like him a lot. Yeah. Any other questions? Preguntas? Nada? All right. Well, it's been a pleasure, y'all. And if you do want to, I'll put my email in the chat. If you have any other questions, feel free to just send me an email. And I did write a book on mindfulness, Blue Feather Mindfulness, and it's on Amazon. And I think I'm going to my next book will have more aspects of listening and whatnot in it as well. So I appreciate your time today, and go forth and change the world one listener at a time.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank y'all.